Full Fettle Malcolmist.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back to the Anime Gamecast, everybody. Before somebody makes another mistake and we have to redo this.
Don't let them know that happened.
Now they know.
Hang on a minute.
Just to recap, we've already talked about Kingdom Hearts, Yakuza, and we've just talked about the Tales of Bizarria.
The Tales of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
The Tales of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So next up, if I take a look at our extensive...
It's Alastair.
I'm next.
It is, of course, Alastair, with, I believe, the one game series that everyone here can have at least a word about.
This.
A word.
Okay.
Fuck's sake.
I haven't played most things.
So, yeah.
Podcast.
Now, I mean, this was bound to come up at some point in this cast, which is Persona!
Persona!
My experience of Persona is the first episode of the Persona 5 anime, and that's it.
Oh no!
Wait,
no!
Do you mean
the first episode or the
Daybreakers animation?
Daybreakers.
Daybreakers, which is actually incredible.
Yeah, the OVA, which is incredible.
The OVA is so good, and then the animation.
And then the anime is terrible.
Right.
Anyway,
Alastair, do you want to give a short description of Persona?
Okay, so the Persona series, each game is essentially
features a giant cock in a chariot.
Yes, that is true.
But that's Shin Mega Tensei more so than Persona.
True.
These are
So
just words to me.
you're a character.
You speak Japanese.
You are a
words to me. Look. I know what they mean, but they don't have a meaning.
Thank you, Ben. I'm glad that tickled you.
So I will explain it as the plot of Persona 5 just because it's easier. What?
Baby, nani?
So in all of the games, you are a typical high school student who
Super attractive high school student.
High school student.
Looks at you now, Cammy.
I don't know if it is for every single game because I haven't played 1, 2, or 3 yet, but at least for 4 and 5.
Is 3 the ones where they shoot themselves in the head?
3 is the one where they shoot themselves in the head.
That's
yeah.
Persona 3.
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't aware of the fandom, there is no such thing as Persona 2 and 3. 1 and 2. Only 3 plus actually mean anything to the fandom.
It's because 1 and 2 are first-person dungeon crawlers.
Well, to be fair, 1 and 2 sort of occupy that strange demon soul state where the series owes a lot to it, but no one seems to talk about it because it's just different enough.
No.
That's what I mean. No, that's what I mean. Persona 1 and 2 owe a lot to Persona 3, 4, and 5. Demon Souls owes a lot, Dark Souls owes a lot to Demon Souls, but no one seems to talk about it anywhere near as much because there's just that level of separation that no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
So
I was listening to you.
Yeah, sorry, Alastair.
So essentially, you're a high school student who, for some reason or another, has now moved to a different place for 1 year, and you meet a bunch of other people through various circumstances, and you have essentially 2 lives. One is your high school life and going around the city and exploring, and the other life is going into some form of dungeon and fighting things with your persona, which is a thing you unlock.
A manifestation of your personality.
Yeah.
A persona is quite literally taken from Jungian psychology, where you are made up of multiple aspects of yourself, and your persona is a physical manifestation of your will. And there are 2 elements to the persona. There is the persona that you want people to see, which is your regular persona. Then there is the shadow of the self, as it is in Jungian psychology, which is the persona you don't want others to see. And the majority of the games revolve around you, essentially. I'm not going to say forcing, but making people realize that the shadow of their self exists, combating them.
That's Persona 4. That's a lot. Persona 4.
And I'd argue there's a fair bit of it in 5 because it involves changing heart, which is exactly the same psychological process.
Is going against other people, but not your own or any other persona users.
Yeah.
So I don't.
No. I'm talking about mechanically. The psychology of the games is the same in that you are changing the shadows of people's selves. You can call that stealing people's hearts. You can call it battling the shadow of the self. It still relates to the same Jungian psychology principle.
It's bringing that hidden personality to to light, whether it's through someone's own will or forcing it.
And then changing their mind, or either changing their mind or coming to accept that shadow of the self. I'm saying that mechanically they're the same.
Okay.
Yes.
Are Persona
Persona 3.
Apart from Persona 3.
Where you shoot yourself in the head.
Man, everyone really gets held up on that point.
These personas, they sound, apart from the whole shadow of yourself thing,
Stands. They're stands.
yes, they
They're
sound
stands.
a lot like stands.
They are stands. There is no two ways about it. They are stands.
Persona draws massive inspiration from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I'm not even joking. Persona 2 involves the Nazis, aka the Germans in JoJo's Part 2. Part 3 involves a dog going to a vampire and going to different parts of the world. Persona 4 involves a load of murders in a small town, and it's up to you to solve it. And Persona 5 is you playing a gang of really good looking. Well, you're a really good looking gang. That's all it is.
A bunch of Italians.
Yes.
So, the only one of
JoJo
these that I've
reference.
actually completed is Persona 5. I am halfway through Persona 4. I've got Persona 3, but of course I won't play Persona 3 until I finish Persona 4. Completely playing these in the wrong order.
There's
But,
no right order to play them.
yeah,
but
no, because they're not
They're
connected.
separate. They're entirely separate.
Is Persona 5 the one where to summon your persona you rip off your own face?
Yes,
rip off
which,
the map.
which is again rooted in
Symbolic.
that. It's again rooted in that whole Jungian psychology.
Yeah.
My entire contribution to this conversation will be occasionally asking and saying, "Is Persona blank the one where?"
Yes.
And we will do our best.
That's going to be me for the next however long we're talking about.
So,
Well, to be fair, this is our most direct anime that we have because there are full animated series made of all.
well,
well,
Persona
the-
5
yeah, like-
isn't. I
Until
don't
we get-
think it's
until we
quite
get to
finished
my
yet.
one. Until we get to my one.
Yes, which is a mess. Nah,
There,
it's good.
there are two separate anime series of 4. There is an anime series of 5, and there is a 4-movie string of.
Is Persona 4 the golden animation, the remake one?
No,
Yes.
that's the one.
Yes, it's the remake of 4.
No,
Got it.
do you mean it's not a remake of the animation of Persona 4? The animation.
No, it's a literal NG plus run of Persona 4 in
Yes.
the fact that the main
Yeah.
character knows the answers.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I quite
And
like
it's
that
played as
concept.
quite a joke with all the extra content that came with the golden version release of the game, and all the new characters and new routes that were
Social
added
routes.
because of that. And so it plays in and adds all of those, but mainly adds in the new scenes with the jokey bits and gets to mess around with the character being overpowered from the get-go and literally knowing what's happening every step of the way through.
I would like to ask a question as a complete Persona newbie.
We shall endeavour to do our best, but we are very disappointing people in general.
But literally, if I wanted to start playing Persona, which game should I start?
5, because it's actually the easiest to get your hands on.
No, genuinely, yes. Do it in reverse. Do 5, 4, 3 because you're playing Persona games for the story. I mean, I'd say before Alastair actually goes into the gameplay stuff, you are playing them for the story. 5 is the easiest to get to grips with the main game. It'll let you play through it quite well. If you find yourself really invested and really enjoying everything, play through 4 and 3 because I'd say in terms of characterization, they actually get better as you go down for 5.
I agree 100% with Joe in the characterization thing, but I disagree in what you should start in, because I think Joe's 100% right in what he said there, but mechanics do make a slight difference, which is why I don't go with Persona 3 straight away, because it can be fairly jank in combat style.
I will say this, like, it's not like Mother 3 or whatever, Earthbound levels of like horrible JRPG-ness, but you know earlier comment we made about grinding, good fucking Christ, Persona 4 tried my patience.
It's only exactly the same as Mementos in 5.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's exactly the same, but I'd argue that Persona 5 is a lot more lenient on the player for not grinding for hours.
Well,
Yeah,
and
it's
in Persona 5,
Also, Persona 5 is easier. It's just easier.
But also,
like-
you can just if you really just want to skip the grind in Persona 5, just go into Mementos in the flu season and kill the Reaper like a couple of
For,
times.
for as a quick reference, Hugh, as far as the combat goes, and for everyone else who's listening, it is a turn-based combat system where basically it rotates around your characters who each get an action, and then it goes through the enemies. And the main objective is essentially Pokemon, where your aim is to counter the elemental weakness of the enemies that you're facing. And in Persona 4, I'd argue its most egregious mistake is that the enemies that are summoned, you have to work out their weaknesses by trial and error. That means that there is, unless you've got a guide open, like I did, there is no way to beat a dungeon on first try, because the enemies do a lot of fucking damage, and you need to trial and error their weaknesses and strengths. This becomes even worse when they will copy-paste models across dungeons who will then flip elemental weaknesses. Persona 5, the enemies are your personas that you use, so you can work out their weaknesses fairly intuitively based on their sort of elemental affinity. This brings me on to my first point. Persona 4's mechanics are fucking awful, except when they work, at which point they're really fucking good. It confuses me.
Yeah, no, Persona 4 is...
Before we get on to the huge mechanics discussion, I will just quickly finish the point I was making about I think you should start with 4 instead of 5, which is,
It's good.
Yes. I think as Joe says, mechanics are less important in Persona as a whole, and the story is what gets you hooked. I think 4 is one that will get you much more invested in characters and characterization and the story and plot behind it, with regards of going into it with that, while the combat still remains fairly decent and accessible. Whereas Persona 5, yeah, it looks cool and pretty and stuff, but I really love Persona 5. I absolutely adore it. One of my favorite games of all time. But it didn't hook me the same time as when I played Persona 4 or Persona 3.
This is going to turn into a mess of a conversation, isn't it? Is
I think.
The thing,
just
going on to the issue. Okay, yeah, playing Persona 4 first. The only problem with that is you either need to buy a PlayStation 2, at which point you get the original version of the game without the extra content of Golden, or you have to get a PS Vita.
PS Vita, sorry,
and then you can play Golden, which is the thing, or you do what I did, which is buy a PlayStation TV.
Yeah, but who does
or emulate it on your computer?
I don't.
For those who have seen / played both versions of Persona 4, not the anime because they use the same voice actors. Chie's voice actor, original or Golden?
Original.
I don't even know. I don't even know what the original voice is, so I can't answer that question.
The Holden voice when they just took Microsoft talking and just did that instead.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. I would like to offer this as anime discussion because I have as ever come up with a sort of axiom I would like us to talk about. Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, the Persona 5. No, it's never women. Joe.
I was going to
We'll get to that.
Lewis's hatred of women is well documented.
We'll get to the waifu conversation.
My favorite woman, my favorite waifu in the Persona series in order is Kanji and Naoto, both a man and wants to be a man.
Last piece of my Kanji cosplay arrived today.
But right. Here is why I think there are so many reasons why the Persona 5 anime is hideous. I will give my hypothesis as to why I think it is egregious, right? In Persona 5, the game, you have no player agency. It doesn't exist. I say this because Yu Narukami from Persona 4, whenever he went to bed, it's because he said to himself, I'm feeling tired. He did things because he called his friends. Yu Narukami has character.
Yeah.
Akira from Persona 5 has no character. Zero.
No, but that's the point of Akira.
And the point is that you're supposed
Doesn't
to...
make you good, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but the thing is, and as you're quite correct, that is the point of him. You're supposed to impose yourself more onto Akira, because the previous games had far more of an Eastern influence, where it was all about the characters, and the characters in a JRPG already have their character.
Western... Oh, no, Lewis, that's not the reason behind it at all. The reason behind it is because, and the director's come out and said this, he wants you to feel, even when playing it, like the game is repressing you, like the characters are supposed to feel repressed, because the feel is that you're being pushed around, that you're being forced into situations. The main arc of it is repression and going through and being stuck doing things that you don't want to do, stuck in ways of life stuck because of other people, and being forced to go to sleep early and being told this is what you have to do, being told all these things and having all of this happen and all this forcing. It's supposed to be a way of putting that on the player.
You know my response to that already, don't you?
I haven't.
Hang on, it's not supposed to be fun. That's the point.
I have enough repressed feelings. That's why I play games, to escape them, not accentuate them.
Is the ironclad defense against any idea like that. They don't have emotion. That's the point. It's not fun. That's the point. Doesn't matter if it's the point. It's not fucking fun. And I'll say that they've gimped Akira's character. Just to finish my point. Sorry, you're entirely. I was going to come on to it. The other point I was going to say is that Persona 4 has got much more of an Eastern influence, whereas I'd argue that Persona 5 has very clearly taken on Western influences in several cases. I'd argue that this is because my personal argument is because I think that the development of Catherine had far more influence on Persona 5 than anyone gives it credit for, far beyond visual style.
Oh yeah, well the Catherine costumes were announced before the fucking game was released.
Yeah, you got the Catherine costumes. Not to mention the fact that Catherine and Persona 5 are identical in terms of their appearance. They are, and Persona and Catherine
and Vincent is Akira in terms of
Edge.
But their walk is the same.
Vincent is Akira, and critically, Catherine is a Western game.
Yeah.
Catherine has got Western sensibilities. It's a Western soap opera. It's presented as a Western style story, where you play as Vincent, you choose Vincent's decisions, and the characters are part of this odd Western soap opera. Okay, it just happens to be set in Japan. That influenced Persona 5, where you control Akira, you make Akira's decisions. Akira has no agency because you impart it on him. Yu Narukami has character. The Persona 5 anime, I'd argue, was never going to work because you look at the source material of Persona 5, Akira, the main character, the character you follow and see for 99% of the game, has no character.
The thing is, I'd argue that Yu Narukami also has no character, and it's put on. But then when they did the Persona 4 anime and I watched that, I realised that Yu Narukami does have some sense of character. Because you look at it and you look at some of the stuff he does, and you look at it in the anime and the responses he gives, and you're like, wait, he does do that in the actual shit in the game as well. And you're like, no, this is the character.
That I'd say that's just the addition of audio stimulation. I'd say, well, this is a weird way of putting it, but just you really do get that if you really do just look at the text that shows up on the screen whenever you interact with anything, whether it's meant to be his thoughts or speaking it. Yeah, they do it better in the anime when voiced by Johnny Young Bosch, but I'd say it does it perfectly well.
Well, I maintain you can. I think the critical difference is even in that writing, Joe. Yu Narukami, it does not say you feels tired. It says I feel tired. It says I want to go to bed. I want to study. I know this is an important decision. In Persona 5, you should go to bed. You need to do this. You should go to the library. You are not Akira. You are not playing as Akira. You're having will imparted upon you, whereas in Persona 4, you impart your will on the environment. Because of that, the best Persona 5 anime rather, is a game without is an anime without Akira in it, and it's a game that he's deleted from the entire thing, and instead the Phantom Thieves start with Makoto or something, and you actually follow the characters which have character. That's just a hypothesis. I can understand anyone who'd want to refute that, because at that point you're not making a tie-in, you're making an adaptation. And I've been very specific about my language there to make me sound good, but
I'd really like that actually, because that would show.
But do you see my point?
Well, that or you still keep in Akira, but you just totally don't try and keep him as the game character.
The main character or the game character. Yeah.
Just going back to what Lewis said there with Makoto, I'd actually really like that, just because that would because with the main character, your first two characters of Akira, Ryuji and Arm, like they're just like always keep secret with the Phantom Thieves and then blurt it out every possible second. Makoto would be actually quite competent as it, and also the complete distinction of student council president to to Phantom Thief would be a really nice discourse.
She'd be competent, and also, I dare say, right, if you're in the position of watching the Persona anime, right, you're at the point where, you know, everyone's like, what is this strange stand? Like, shut the fuck up. You know exactly what a Persona is. You've seen enough of this. Don't fucking lie. You know who Igor is. You know what this bullshit is. We'll characterize him, but we're not going to explain everything like a tutorial in the game. Imagine if the Persona 5 animation was from the perspective of Makoto, and you joined when Makoto joins the story. You've already, like, fucking Kamoshida's been done off screen or whatever, and you just join when she joins the fucking plot, and you run from there.
Man, Kamoshida should have been the main character. What a hero.
In fact, he's got more character than Akira. Oh!
He's one of my favorite voice actors of all time. Yeah.
Johnny rapes a lot.
DC Douglas. He's Albert Wesker. Yes, Johnny.
I know.
He sounds so like his sub voice actor in the in the sub in the anime is so weird. It's just I can't deal with it.
Then don't watch it dubbed like you should, like you played it.
There isn't a dub of Persona 5 the animation yet.
That's why you should just play it.
Which I have done.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it is not difficult to see the characters, and it's not just the main characters in you and Akira. It's also like the other characters are just better in Persona 4. Like,
I like the fact that you didn't even call Akira a main character. You said the main characters Akira and you. Just throwing low-key shade at Akira.
I know, because the main character in 4 is called you.
The main character is called you.
Oh, right, my bad.
His name is YU.
You know Tommy.
Oh, right.
Yeah, what?
You tell I kind of zoned out 10 minutes ago and I'm
Yes.
come back here.
Yeah,
you.
so,
Anyway,
but yeah, the
those are my hypothesis of Persona.
I mean,
it's a good game.
at least for the main crew. So the way I would look at it for the characters, the difference between Persona 5 and Persona 4, the main crew, the characters are better in Persona 4. I would argue that the external characters of the other social links that aren't part of the crew, some of them are better in Persona 5. Because there's more of them, but well, there's not more of them, but
There's not more of them.
there's not more of them, but like
It's exactly the same.
I was going to say
They're more
correspond to an
memorable.
They
arc.
correspond to the amount of tarot cards.
yeah, they're more memorable in Persona 5. I feel like the external ones.
God, this is all going in my head.
So
Hugh, you've seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, yeah?
Aye.
So in
I-
part
I-
three,
I-
in part three, you know how there's a tarot card for every single fucking stand except for the
Aye.
Egyptian goblins. There is a character who represents each of the tarot cards.
Oh god, this really
And
is
you can
JoJo,
build up a
isn't it?
relationship with them bonuses in game.
yeah,
Got it.
And personas all relate to a tarot card type, and the higher your type, the better that persona is.
Okay, that's quite a good system.
Yeah, the mechanics and the story of the game are very well intertwined. It's actually the moment-to-moment mechanics which are fucking god-awful and everything apart from Persona 5.
yeah. No,
I've heard
Persona
that when it
5 as an actual mechanically is the best game.
By far.
Yeah,
I've heard when it
Yeah.
comes down to Persona that a lot of the game comes from, like in Yakuza, not the actual game itself, but the actual around bits. So the building relationships.
Yes,
talking to
it's
people.
all
Yeah.
the social aspects. Like there's a couple of mini games in Persona, but
yeah. You can not the minigames.
if
It's
you're
the
not-
it's
if
the
you're not
social
invested-
links.
If you're not invested in the characters and the story, then you're not going to enjoy the game.
Which is why
Persona... Oh, sorry.
I play the game every time as I finish every dungeon the day the dungeon unlocks,
Yeah.
so that I can spend
Yeah, the
all
same.
of my time doing
Same.
the.
If I ever play another Persona game, and I recommend this wholeheartedly to our audience, play the game on easy. You are literally missing out on nothing. The tactical complexity of these games is Pokemon.
Is Persona 5 the one where there is a question in class that is literally impossible to answer because it's a kanji question? And if you do not speak the Japanese language, it's literally impossible to answer.
Would you like to know
yeah.
the real? Would you like to know the real option to that, Hugh?
Go on.
There is a multiplayer feature. There is a multiplayer feature where you can bring up the answers that everyone else did, and of course, because everyone else, some people looked at the answers and everyone voted for them, it is always 99% on the correct answer and 1% on the retarded funny one.
All right, fair enough.
So you can always get the correct answer whenever you want, which is nice.
That exists in both 4 and 5. There is also the occasional, not exactly question, but choice in the game, which you can only do on NG+, because it requires you to have a certain stat at a level that is impossible.
That annoyed me a bit in Persona 4.
New Game Plus.
Because you get those little moments of stuff that don't really affect anything, but you get little bits like when at the start when you're supposed to be timid and you're
just
being treated a bit
give me
like
a number.
shit. You can just turn around and you can say to like the
you can just turn around and be like,
you like shit and just be like fuck off.
Or you can go up to like
all right, yeah,
you can cry.
Go to cheer and just ask for a number.
Exactly. You could just be like, number.
Dude, you gonna cry?
Yeah. No.
But,
music is always great in Persona games, I find.
It's excellent because it's all English, and the voice actress is the most lovely lady, and does so much voice acting work across all these games, and she pours her heart and soul into every song, and the music direction is just like upbeat enough to carry the whole game. Let me tell you, if you dislike the main battle theme in any of these games, you're going to want to drill like your fucking skull out by the end of it, because it's the same for everything apart from boss fights.
I will.
Persona 4 has 2 if you do the golden version.
I will say that having never played Persona, I am very aware of its music, because its music was everywhere when Persona 5 released, and it is very good.
Well, it's because you never see it coming. No, okay.
She is the blackest sounding Japanese woman I've ever heard.
It also birthed my favourite ever meme video, which, if you've ever seen it, just go in and type in.
Here's the 411, folks.
Yeah, it's Mo from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
It was me on your fly, girl. Just give him a few of these.
One of these, and
If
then
this
it just
person's
goes
never seen this meme, then they're fucking blind.
I knew what you were saying. If you just here's the 411, folks.
Some gangsters dissing your fly girl. You give them one of these. My favourite thing about that is the bullet
shotgun.
count on the double barrel shotgun goes to -1 because he fires 3 shots.
It's really excellent. It's an excellent meme.
But like Persona 3's final boss theme is in my top 3 of my favourite musics across.
Oh yeah, that's
anything.
solid shit. That's solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, which game?
Persona 3 as final boss, Battle for Everyone's Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that I tend to reserve.
Reach Out to the Truth, I think, is still my favourite battle theme of all time.
Your favourite one's the Dancing All Night version, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what the piece of video game music I use to hype myself up is?
Oh, go on.
The main theme from Uncharted.
Oh, that's a good theme, to be fair.
Look at this fucking Westerboot.
I know, it's like
It's way too west.
I love it.
Let's move on before Hugh gets dragged even further into the cesspool of Westerboot. Hugh, tell us about your Weeb game.
Are we done with Persona?
Right, so
There's so much more we could talk about with Persona.
We could do a whole fucking podcast. There's 3 games, 3 anime series, and 4 fucking films about the other one. We could sit here for hours about it. We've already spoken about it for about an hour.
No, we actually haven't.
Well, fine then. Make your what's your point?
No, I was going to ask Persona-related questions.
Who's on the tip of your fucking tongue? Come on, what was it?
Well, I was gonna ask Persona-related questions.
All right, go on then.
So first
When you're fucking
choice
ready.
is.
Sorry, I'm kind of kidding. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're being a little guy today.
Being a little salt.
So,
Alastair, I hope you realise you're gonna have to include slides, which is headphone user Ben warning in 3, 2, 1.
Please, the picture Hugh just posted under the chat. Put that on.
That's the thumbnail. That's the thumbnail.
No. Just and only just during the bit where Hugh's doing the Uncharted theme.
Oh dear. Buy Uncharted 3, it's so good.
oh god.
Anyway, as you were, Alastair.
Yeah, Alastair, you had a point.
So I believe we've just done Hugh's game there of his choice, Uncharted 3.
Well, now I was gonna just ask like various things of just like, who's your favorite
Sure.
social link? What is your favorite romance option?
Do you want
Cool, I can't tell you either of those
Hang on,
questions because
let's have an order. Let's have an order.
I'll go first.
Yeah, you're first.
Cool.
What's your favorite social link?
My favorite social link is the first one.
Classic. And what is your favorite romance option?
The one that is legal and not creepy. So
None of them.
All of them.
No,
so I'm gonna look.
Apart from that time where you fucked your teacher.
Yeah, I was gonna look directly
yeah.
at Alastair's direction and just go, Alastair, isn't your favourite the teacher?
Time to throw shade.
yes.
That was a couple of great answers here. Ben,
Yeah.
what's your answer? Is your second on the Discord order for me?
I probably fuck it, I'll just dive in. It's slight spoilers for 3. But...
always, for those of us who played,
Timestamp.
for those of us who have played multiple games, we're allowed to do per game.
You can do
He's
it
just
per
saying
game if you
overall.
want to.
I'd prefer to.
Okay.
Well, now he's made it difficult.
You have to give 3 names, Ben.
Right. In 3, it is because I want to avoid spoilers, so I will instead go for the one who is named Dying Boy in Striped Pajamas.
Ken, you can just say the name. Come on.
No, it's Dying Boy in Striped Pajamas.
To be fair, I can't wait. I can't wait for that bit.
Until you reach the 3rd rank of his social link, the name it gives you for him. So
I mean,
fuck
yeah,
off.
I was saying, to be fair, Ben, I can't wait for that bit when someone's playing the game and they see a dying boy in striped pajamas and they're thinking, man, there's a lot of dying kids with striped pajamas in this game. I'm glad that Ben saved me the spoiler for this one.
And Ben, if people just Google the boy in striped pajamas, they're gonna get a book about a kid in a concentration camp.
Oh shit, that's true. Yeah. My favorite romance in 3. Actually, no. Because I forgot Paul.
What's got you now?
I think it's the memes you're posting in chat.
It's not even the memes. It's entirely unrelated. I
Well-
opened my drawer to remind myself about some marking, and the page is opened, and the first sentence by year 13 is written as "Be are important in society today."
God.
I'm glad to know that we're interesting enough, Liz, that you don't have to distract yourself with your fucking work.
No. It's just because I was just thinking, like, what do I have tomorrow? And I quickly just checked the drawer, just like I wanted to make sure I had everything done and sorted because I thought I did. Oh shit.
Don't even talk to me what I've got tomorrow.
Oh,
Anyway,
sorry.
continue.
Anyway, sorry, Ben.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, right. No, I was listening. I couldn't-
My favorite social link in Persona 3 is probably Koromaru,
Okay.
which is the dog.
Yeah.
And my favorite romances are probably drawn. It's Shinjiro and Akihiko.
These are so going over my head again.
I,
Don't worry about it. Don't worry
Same.
about it.
honestly, this is just for the occasional viewers thing and for me, for Ben, because like we're the only ones who have played 3.
Yeah.
In Persona 4, my favorite social link is. I'm trying to think of which ones actually hit me the most in this.
There is only one correct answer for the romance for Persona 4.
Yes, we know.
We'll get.
Persona 4, my favorite. Probably. To be fair, favorite route is either I or Dojiba.
Yeah.
Because I's route is actually the most complex and well-written route, given the decisions and the long-lasting effects of them.
It is just a shame that, as Lewis is about to say, it requires far too much investment for people like him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll say, unfortunately, I got 3 stages in, I was like, Christ, you're a bitch.
Yeah,
Just left
exactly.
her be,
Yeah,
entirely missing the point of her arc.
She
Yeah.
has the most growth out of any of the characters.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just there like, fuck this, I'm gonna go hang out with Naruto.
And
Apologies, Dad.
Mm.
and the best romance option in 4 is clearly Adachi and his cabbages.
Wherever you are. It's the washing machine attendant.
In 5, my favorite link is... God, I don't fucking know. I'm trying to think whose side links.
The
To be
rare
honest,
Stinky Ben.
Yeah, none of them.
the politician,
Yeah, he was alright.
Tora's pretty good.
because he solved his own fucking problems by
Actually trying.
link and actually trying, and then goes on to actually just solve other people's problems throughout the rest of his route.
Oh, well, I'll talk about mine when we do.
When we get to you, yes.
Yeah.
And
Jesus, fucking Joe, I'm sorry I sexually assaulted your dog. I didn't realise that fucking that said something to her
It
face.
was innocent.
No, he fucking wasn't.
and romance in 5 is Makoto.
Okay, for me, 3 romance Akihiko, like I said with Ben on that one. Favorite social link is actually tied between either Elizabeth or Aegis for me.
Yeah, I guess it's good shit.
They're both great for me. For 4 romances, obviously Rise. Like, it's the only choice.
Oh yeah, I didn't actually give my proper one and not a meme. Yeah, I did. Rise is the one I pick.
hmm I mean, Murray is fine. Like, I'm not going to judge you too harshly.
If you don't mind not spoiling that, I still need to get.
I'm not going to, don't
Thanks, man.
I? But
Appreciate
favorite social links in 4 is fuck off you. Is
no love lost in this podcast.
Yep, is Kanji for me 100%. He is my favorite character in all of Persona, I'd say actually.
Same.
As for
Because he likes
5,
knitting.
he does.
Yep.
He does, and he's good at it.
He
puts in
encapsulates
the
the,
effort.
he encapsulates the masculine ideal.
Which is why I'm cosplaying him in London Comic Con.
Can you knit?
So if you see Joe walking around in his cosplay, give him a good handshake.
I was gonna say hand job.
Oh, I wouldn't touch
like,
those hands. You know where they've been.
On Ben's penis.
Oof.
Thank you.
I mean, we made
Wow,
very
Alistair
rude
drops
on
the first gay joke he's ever dropped in the entire.
Oh my god,
podcast.
actually that's true. Wait, where's the party poppers?
and literally every single one of us just goes completely silent as it just drops dead on the floor.
Alistair drops the
Holy
second.
fuck.
Alistair drops the second gay joke of the podcast after a sex life.
Hey.
Hey.
I fucking hate that stupid foghorn.
Close second after Kanji for me is Margaret, just because I actually really like the Velvet Room. Like, people attendance most of the time. They're really good.
What is my velvet room?
What do you want again? No, sorry.
Casting Kanji! The true social link of Casting Kanji.
The true stan.
And for 5, romance for me is Hifumi, the shogi girl, for the people who don't really care.
Yes.
I know, I'm...
2.0.
She's not.
Oh, you're right. Instead of an in, it's shogi.
I don't want to shogi because my mum has made me It's actually, I don't want it in because my mum has made me in.
Oh wait, now I will
Wait.
in.
Now that my mum has stopped making me in, I am become in.
No.
I don't want to shogi, my mum is making me shogi. Oh wait, now she is stopping making me shogi, I will shogi.
No.
I am
No.
become shogi.
No, and no. Hifumi...
So, Alistair, how are you?
Hifumi always wants to play shogi. She just wants to do it on her term. That's it.
Yeah, just like how she wants to keep it in on her own term.
Well, no, Yukio doesn't. She straight up says, I don't want to, I want to leave and do my thing.
Right up until she decides to look after the.
Exactly. Exactly. She goes back on herself. Hifumi at no point says, "I want to stop playing shogi. I want to go do something else."
I appreciate the difference, although it is small. I will have to say, it's almost like this game is tropey as fuck.
It is. Favorite social link in general. I don't know. Honestly, Five's general friend social links were quite weak for me. And yeah, I'd probably go with Tora as well for Ben, or close after that would maybe be Makoto's.
Right.
Yeah, I'm struggling to actually honestly think of most of the social links that I
Yeah, I was about to fucking say.
that really had a big... I cared about the story a lot, and I cared about the stylization and combat, but fuck me, I'm starting to realise that everything went over my head for a lot of the social links.
Its individual characters are quite weak. They come together very well, but individually not strong.
Sojiro. I actually like Sojiro's at the end once it gets going.
Yeah, right. Okay, my answers will be fairly straightforward. Persona 4, the best social link, and the best social link in the entirety of the game is Kanji. It's the only one that actually has balls to go against the current. The voice acting actually carries it for once as opposed to being detrimental to it. It's really fucking good. The Persona 4 romance option you should take is as we said, Rise, but that's because the writing forces you to. I wish I could have taken Naoto, but it turns out that her writing is dog shite when it comes to her actual route, and they just totally pussy out the whole transgenderism thing. And right at the end of it, you get a really creepy decision where you can say, where she says, "Do you want me to be a man or a woman?" And you can pick, which is
Wrong.
Which is wrong and creepy as fuck. So if I had to say what my favorite romance option in Persona 4 is, I don't have one. Persona 5, my favorite romance option. Haru, maybe. I haven't actually done it. It was probably going to be better than Makoto, which turned out to be dull as dishwater because she doesn't actually have any character growth, because she starts off as a complete character, which is a great idea, except for in a game which is based around characters growing. And as far as my favorite social link goes, I don't. Persona 5 social links are fucking dog shit.
This coming from the man that really enjoyed Persona 5.
Yep. Oh yeah. And that's exactly it. And I'm gonna echo the same thing you guys just said. I absolutely adored the main story. I felt really involved. I loved the combat of that game. It felt really good to do the combos. Mechanically, the characters felt very strong, and there was a strong visual design tied to their actual narrative gameplay. The writing is dog shit. It's awful.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely terrible. The plot is tropey as hell. It's very easy to see what the plot twist can come, and the only brief spoiler alert if you want to remain truly fucking non-spoilery, the only character with any decent character arc gets fucking killed halfway through his character arc.
Oh yeah, he actually does have really decent writing.
Yep, he has decent writing, a good character arc, and a good motivation. He should have been a main character! Sorry, I didn't know who said that, really autistically. But
a bit weird there.
Yeah, a bit weird that autism has leaked through. But no, seriously, Persona 5's writing is absolutely fucking Kate. She doesn't listen to this, I hope.
Kate dies halfway through. No, Ben, I'm so sorry.
Kate, if you're listening,
I'll say Ben, I'm so happy for you.
Kate.
Moderation. I love. No,
Kate,
but no,
Kate, if you're listening to this,
we can be together.
Yeah, but no, seriously, Persona 5 writing is absolutely fucking dog shit here. Persona 4 is okay because it takes the tropes and actually does something with them. But if I'm being honest, it felt wrong to romance a lot of the options in Persona 4, but for the correct reason, they felt better as friends, which is such a lovely sentiment to have in a JRPG for once.
Yeah, that's really true. And the thing
I couldn't be with Chie. She is my best friend in that
game.
Yeah,
even though you have the brief bit of disappointment when you don't take things further, it's immediately bolstered up with actually their realization of, yeah, actually, fuck it, we are really good friends.
And
literally right up until Social Link 9, I was just yeah, I'm gonna romance Chie, and it's just no, I have far too much fun.
You are my best friend.
She is the broiest bro to bro.
To be fair.
Right.
So, anyway.
Maria is actually the only one that's a decent replacement.
Right. Funny you should mention. I want to go back and play Persona 4 for exactly that reason. I don't have 90 hours of time to kill. One day when I do, I'm going back for that. I'm going back for that puss. Damn Persona 4, your writing's so terrible, but that puss game is so strong.
Oh, God.
Well, my turn, I guess. So
If
for
you
Persona
insist.
4, I'm just gonna freaking leave.
Throw in the shade this evening.
Because he knows what my answer is for Persona 5, and it's gonna make his skin crawl. So he doesn't want me to say it.
I'm just giggling in the background, knowing nothing about this conversation.
So Persona 4. I haven't finished Persona 4 yet, so I don't know all of the freaking routes.
Do it, man.
But
Do it.
probably best social link
Do it. Why are you doing it?
is best romance is Rise, because it's literally even people who don't like her agree online that she is the person you're supposed to romance. So yes, and I would romance her anyway. Persona 5, probably for me, best social link and romance is the same answer, which I'm now going to make two people on this podcast now have their skins crawl, but is Kawakami. She is bae.
And
Lewis, how many of your students would you massage nightly and then give handjobs to?
Yeah, so how many of my students would I willingly divulge that I'm desperately poor and consequently literally whore myself out for money because I feel guilty about a student's death? Yeah, that plot suddenly became a hell of a lot more real, didn't it?
Alistair just goes completely silent.
Well,
she
she actually doesn't actually whore herself out.
Yeah.
Apart from the bit
That's not the part you should have had issue with!
apart from the bit where she mentions special massages.
Yeah, apart from that bit where she literally massages your dick until, like, you get your test results all over that paper. Also, she uses her position as a teacher to let you skive, which is just like that right there. That's how you get behavior issues 3 months down the line. And when it comes to fucking summer, it turns you can't go to any good fucking university because it's Japan and they give a shit about those things. And she's like, "Well, I thought I was going to be nice to you," and you're like, "No, I needed that tough fucking love and
You
treatment."
don't work at the university, do you?
Bitch.
Yeah, but you probably find he gets homeschooled from her, like, afterwards anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
they're
code. That's
teaching.
the code that I'm sure they fucking use.
Yeah, and when you choose to romance Makoto and she says maybe we can learn some biology this evening, you actually go back and don't shag.
We don't need no biology.
Okay, so final thing before we move on to the next one. Favorite Persona, and in Hugh's case, favorite JoJo's Bizarre Adventure stand.
Well, also leading on to that, favorite crew to have as a crew.
Oh Christ! Actually, favorite
the
Persona.
Stardust Crusade.
Oh God!
We're never getting off this one.
And oh, Lewis, we barely fucking scratched Persona.
I never said that, Lewis. I stayed silent.
No, I know. I was more aping Alastair. I like how that's now your associated piss tape voice. I do need to come up with one for Alastair. Let's just go for Adrian. Oh, well, we barely touched Persona, guys. Come on, we don't want Hugh to be engaged in the material.
Verwin, calm down. We'll deal with it later.
I'm listening.
Favorite Persona. Fuck,
I only played Fate Grand Order a little bit.
Oh. Sorry, allow me to now make fun of Joe. Oh, Lewis, I can't believe you're looking at some marking while we're sorry. Hugh there, literally. Where's my Astolfo, Walter? Where is it? Fucking just like.
I've yet to get a Stolfo.
Well, I'll just start. Favorite Persona is.
That was not the part of the sentence you should have had issue with.
Fine. There is not an Astolfo altar. Is that what you want?
Alistair,
to say?
Yeah.
go.
Favorite Persona in all of Persona is Makoto's because it's a freaking motorbike.
Great, now mine isn't going to sound original.
Hey.
And squad that I use all the time in Persona 5 once I get them is Squad Harem, which is Anne, Makoto, and Haru. Just because it is best.
I didn't ask that, Alistair, but thank you for your
No one asked it. No one.
Well, I gave it anyway.
Alistair, genuine question for you.
Is this gonna?
Why do you hate men?
Why do you hate men?
I just prefer female characters. Who cares?
There we go. Anyway, go on. While I crack open this bag of Haribo Star Mix, other sweets are available.
We'll go up the Discord chat then, Lewis.
Christ. Right, favorite squad in Persona 5, I guess if we're doing that. Makoto, Haru, and I guess.
Only Persona 5?
I-
My favorite squad isn't in Persona 5, so can I just pick my favorite squad?
Just give your favorite squad.
Yeah, fuck it. Favorite squad is me. Sorry, Kanji, Naoto, and I alternate between Yukiko and Rise and Chie and myself. As far as my favorite Persona goes, I've actually gotten up a list on Google because I actually have no idea. I actually like too many of them genuinely.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've got a special place in my heart for like Leon Sheed,
and Titania.
which carried me through so much Persona 4. Queen Mob, yes, because I had so much affinity for things that carried me through so much Persona. If I actually had to.
Sorry, Lewis, I just got your fucking picture of your marking.
As if I actually had to a gun to my head, if I had to pick one, I think I'd probably go with Izanagi.
Solid choice.
Mm-hmm. The design is because the best part about it for me is it's not over designed, if that makes sense. Because I feel that I love Arsene, but the problem with Arsene is that he is over designed as a character. Whereas Izanagi does look like a regular Persona, but his design is incredible for it, and it really it feels like your Persona. It doesn't feel like Arsene, which is sort of here's stupid pro tag powers.
Izanagi mirrors you perfectly.
Yeah, Izanagi mirrors you, and he starts off weak, whereas Arsene looks incredible, feels incredible, and for that reason I could never give it to him because it's a game about an underdog rising up. But in any other situation, I would pick Arsene.
Joseph. Favorite squad? Right. Yeah, we'll go with 4 for this one. Very similar to Lewis, actually. You, Kanji, Chie, and Naoto for me. Favorite Persona?
Boruto's dad.
Yes, Boruto's dad. No, I mean, it's missing one letter, so would it just be Bort's dad? Borto's dad. Favorite Persona? I am extremely partial to Johanna. I love motorcycles anyway. I really love the just the lore behind it anyway. The other one that goes really highly for me is Sataniel, just because it's for the amount of effort you have to put into it, and you really feel rewarded for having it. And I love its design as one of the 4 forms of Satan in Persona. Yeah. Ben.
Favorite squad, to be honest with you, I'm quite a lazy fuck and I'll just roll with the first 3 that get thrown in my party in most games on the first run. The only one that I actively switch at this point, because that actually makes a difference and I like it, is Persona 3. I like my cool squad, Mitsuru, Akihiko, and Shinji. Shinji. Persona, Thanatos, and Alice.
Thanatos. Fucking great.
So for me, it's the Stardust Crusaders.
Yep.
Is it Death 13 Lally Ho?
No. And probably Shining Diamond. Or Crazy
Diamond. Which,
Shine on, you crazy diamond.
Shine on, you crazy diamond.
Are you sure it's not Emerald Splash because it has no weakness?
Oh
yeah,
it really does. It really does.
Once again, let's save this for the JoJo cast.
Yep.
That's a thing.
That's fair.
Oh god.
That's inevitably.
Yeah, I suppose.
One day.
I guess I'll be there for that.
I probably won't.
Inviting himself back as he's been a good guest.
You can't get rid of me now. It's too late.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe.
Oh dear. Any more questions?
No, I think since otherwise we'll get
Madrid?
Lewis annoyed if we do any more Persona. So
I'm always annoyed.
My last question is for Ben specifically. Will you burn Madrid?
Yeah, I will burn that bread.
Thank you. Moving on.
Yes,
Next.
please.
Hugh.
Oh yeah, it is me.
Oh,
I was
it
so
was
completely out.
me.
I was so completely out of that.
You're just there like, well,
It
to be fair,
was
guys,
me.
how am I supposed to talk about anime when I'm playing Grand Order?
No, to be fair, it's downloading in the background because
When I'm paying for resummons, it can be very difficult to pay attention to anything else.
I spent 80p on it this afternoon because I was almost finished with a fight. I died and I was like, oh no, I need to keep going, and I had no way of kept going, so I paid 80p for 1 quartz.
And that's how it begins.
I have never paid money for a single mobile game of which I own quite a fair few of between Fire and
Not until Grand Order. Anyway, the game that I have picked to talk about, because
It's
it is
not Grand Order.
literally the most anime game out of all of the games we talked about, is Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax. Which, for those of you who are not aware, Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax, according to the Wikipedia entry, is a 2D arcade fighting game developed by Software and French bred and published by Sega. Essentially, the plot of Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax is that, for those of you who don't know, Dengeki Bunko is a light novel publishing company. They published such light novels as Certain Magical Index, Sword Art Online, The Irregular Magical High School. I can't believe that my little sister is this cute. Durarara, Shaki no Shana, so on.
I have extreme concerns about the cast of this fighting game.
Anyway, so the basic
And I've played Nitro Plus Blasters.
The basic plot is something has gone down. These worlds are interacting, and the characters that are not supposed to be able to fight are given powers in order to fight each other. And it's a 2D fighting game, and it's not very good.
Okay.
It's all
Yeah,
right.
because
It's
Kirito
fine.
hacks
Characters
everything
have-
and wins.
The characters
But
are
you-
unbalanced.
I genuinely thought I
Okay.
would have nothing to say on this game.
I
Okay.
have.
Okay.
I play a lot of fighting games.
Yeah, me too.
Do you want me to talk technical fighting game balance with regards to this game, or do you want me to show
I
just let you talk anime?
Well,
Let's do the anime talk first, and Alex later.
let me say this: if you enjoy something like Street Fighter,
Yeah.
or if you enjoy anime, or if you enjoy both together, you can go and play Dengeki Bunko.
Anything except this, got it.
You can go and play Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax and be moderately entertained. That's about as much as you can be in this game. It's moderate entertainment, and this is coming from someone who has played it for a good 100+ hours. I enjoyed it, but I am aware that in terms of a fighting game, it is distinctly middle of the road. There are better fighting games out there.
See, just going off of that exact sentence, I'd say Street Fighter is actually one of the more technical fighting games. So would you say this one's actually more of your advanced actual fighting?
No,
No, not at all. It is a very basic fighting game.
it is. I forgot the name now. The one with Seiya from Seiya no Uterin.
Nitro Blast Blasters, the one I
Nitro plus it's Nitro plus Blasters with dangerously unbalanced characters.
Right,
Yeah,
yes, because Seiya in that is fucking broken.
Yes, she is.
There are specific characters in this game that are broken. For instance, if you want to play basketball, Lolly, you win. You just win because she has a move that literally incapacitates another character, and you can combo that move into other moves where you are still incapacitated.
Gotcha.
You can do nothing, and that's a bad fighting game design. A good fighting game design is one where even combo, you should be able to somehow get out of it.
Yep.
And not have a game arbitrarily lock you out of it because a character is doing one of their moves. This is the big problem this game has. The other big problem this game has is that it does not tell you about the game in any kind of tutorial, any kind of easy way. It simply gives you a block of information text and goes, that's how you play the game. And it can just get wildly confusing for anyone who does not know how to play the game.
Yeah, I'd say that's a problem for a lot of, again, Nitro Plus Blasters, this one, anything that relies on what is essentially fan service to make it sales as a fighting game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're relying on character design, not the actual game itself.
Yeah. Essentially, the way the game tries to sell it is the large cast of anime characters and light novel characters that you can have a look at, and the ability to pick your fighting character and then pick a support, which are also from different fighting.
This is the
different games.
exact same as Nitro Blast, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is. It literally is. So, if you like that sort of thing, it's fine. If you want to see Kirito beating up, Misaki Mikoto from a certain magical index, you can. If you want to see Kirino in different kinds of cosplay beating up a basketball lolly, sure, everybody's got their thing. But in terms of being an actual game, it is the weakest game out of all the ones we have talked about today, by a distinct long way.
Yep.
Okay.
And I distinctly realised that in terms of amount of things to talk about, it is distinctly at the bottom. Hence why the fact that Lewis and Alastair have gone deadly silent.
Right, so never played or heard of the game. Really, I played a bit of Nitro Blasters. There is stuff to be talked about here, obviously, in terms of compilation-esque games. And
This is why I picked it. I picked it essentially, and the question I would like to throw out to the group is, what do you feel about games that distinctly try and sell themselves on their characters and a gimmick rather than the games themselves? Do you think that a game can be good if it does this? Or do you think that they are always doomed to fail?
good in spite of that. I would argue that there is no reason that... I mean, this is a very me sentence, I guess. There is no reason why anyone can't make a perfect game. It's just because they didn't try hard enough. And if you are handed a bunch of really cool characters, that is no excuse to not make an excellent game on top of it. See BlazBlue, fucking Can't Escape from Crossing Fate, Cross Tag, Super Meme Battle, which I've absolutely adored as a fighting game, and it's probably the second, along with Tekken 7, that I've actually gotten on with. It is a compilation game with various characters, a bit gimmicky in terms of the fact that you have the whole cross-tag system, but is featured in EVO, now has more players playing at EVO than does Smash Brothers, has a competitive meta that's actually vaguely balanced, and is good fucking fun. So if you've made a game like this, or like Nitro Blasters Plus, and it's not good, that's because you're a bad game designer, not because you were handed a bunch of good characters and you were handed a bunch of good characters and decided to be lazy. You can be handed a bunch of excellent characters and do something amazing with it. See BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, or indeed see many of the fucking crossover games that exist in the fighting game genre. But like for the most part, some people are handed characters and they get lazy. Some people are handed characters and go, "We can do amazing things with this," and they do. So you can be good in spite of that.
Yeah,
I think it.
and this is. Go on.
It does. You can see that for some, because it has game is a good example of that, and it has happened more than once. Is that game developers will just get handed these characters, and they will just ship out a game that's mediocre because they know it will sell because it has these characters in it, and it's just like, well, quick buck.
I think one of the big issues is this game started off like a few other Japanese games. It started off in arcades, and I think with arcade games, the general quality tends to be lower because people are not playing it for a longer period of time.
No, you're paying coins.
You're paying in short, sharp bursts. So, to have a very complicated fighting game system on an arcade machine is very difficult because people don't want to have to spend all of their hard-earned money to play, 10 matches in order to vaguely learn a character. Because as far as they're concerned, that's spending £10 maybe a character.
Yep.
And people don't want to do that.
I 100% agree with that. If you don't mind me going on a quick tangent there.
Go for it.
I'd say it's an extremely similar case. This is the newest of the Final Fantasy Dissidia title, which is the fighting game ones of those, where they also started off with multiple characters. I'm a huge fan of the series. My PSP memory card will attest to that. In fact, I've got over 1,000 hours on the previous entry to the title. Yet the newest one has seen very little in terms of sales, people continuously playing it, stuff like that. Because I also feel they just kind of went in too quickly. They just used the fact that they've got these characters that everyone knows, and they didn't focus on the actual game's mechanics so much. They made it the whole game is designed to be a 3v3 multiplayer arena one, but they just didn't actually put enough care into it with that kind of thing, and the matches were, I'd say, quite unbalanced for the most part, and just, yeah, and it starts off as an arcade-only game, and people weren't going to bother with that because you needed 6 people to properly do it, and because the eyes were shit, and yeah, it just didn't work.
I mean,
And I think
that's an
Go on.
issue you always face with multiplayer games and that sort of stuff. Is the hardest thing, probably, I'm not entirely sure, but I would assume one of the hardest things to do in those sorts of games is balancing, because if you have loads of different characters with different abilities, it can do different things. Of course, it's going to be one is going to end up becoming, like, you're going to end up creating a meta essentially of what's the best comp to use, and you'll in certain situations, and it's hard to make everybody equal. It's all by the nature of it, it's impossible almost.
Well, look at Overwatch. Overwatch is currently been in its second or even third year of being out, and it still does updates every so often to change game balance in order to make it balanced. And look at, say, a card game like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering, where cards are continuously being banned and unbanned and rotated in order to make sure that the meta does not diverge on a single deck. Everything, like, this is what's really tricky. And with going back to the game, with Fighting Climax, they made the game, they had characters that were distinctly better than others, and they just left it. And playing that game, 3 years down the line, they've still not fixed it because they don't want to. It's gone. The team's doing something else.
Yeah,
well,
most fighting games do require constant attention, I'd say. If you want them to be a long life game on a multiplayer platform.
Yeah.
Or you make trash
But
like
I just
Smash.
I
like Smash. It's not competitively viable. Fight me.
Oh, no, agreed. No,
Yeah.
agreed. It's not that's about, but it is some of the most fun I ever had on the Wii. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Like, I just think it's interesting, just throwing that question out. Whether or not a game can be good despite of its obvious shortcomings, or whether or not a fighting game needs that constant attention. That's just what I found interesting.
But
It's like
the
game itself is mediocre. It's almost a nothingness. It's the conversation.
But is it fun?
I enjoyed it, but I'm aware that there are way better fighting games out there. If you enjoy fighting games, play something else. That is my takeaway from Fighting Climax. That is my takeaway. Play something else if you enjoy fighting games. Play Tekken or Street Fighter or whatever Ben's about to suggest.
Kiwami 2. I think Ben's dead.
Ben's dead.
Yeah.
Soul Calibur 6 comes out soon. Everyone should get it because I really love that series.
Like, you kind of get that with video games nowadays, of like, you'll get some companies who make a video game and they're literally pouring their heart and soul into this thing, and they're wanting to make the best game they possibly can. And then there are other companies who are literally there just to make money. EA. So
I think that especially, like, it's much more of a focus nowadays, but any fighting game does have to have it's almost essential for it to have that online capability, and therefore needs to be monitored by its creators. Anything that doesn't do that is just a quick cash grab. If they want to have any kind of longevity, it needs to stay in its company spotlight.
The other thing that kind of helps with longevity and balancing is if that game has a competitive scene. Because then they have to balance it, because it's a competitive thing where people are actually competing to make money, which is like the thing with Overwatch. That's why Overwatch keeps getting one of the reasons Overwatch keeps getting its balancing is because it has a competitive scene now. Other games like
the other option is like League, to just have so many characters that it doesn't matter. Some of them will always be irrelevant, and that people don't care.
Yeah. And they'll just play them because they like the look of the character or because they think it's funny.
Yep.
So I've just found out that I've been spelling Kate's name wrong for about
Yeah,
4
just
months.
just saw that
assumed
one.
you'd been using that. I think that's the first time I've seen you write it in text, and so I assumed all the memes you didn't make, you just pulled and happened to have the name on.
Ooh, ooh.
Oh dear.
Ouch.
Dear. But anyway, that's me. That's all I have to say on that, and that's all I have to say about that.
Fair enough. How are we doing for time, Alistair?
I mean, since this is now recorded in
honestly,
several
that's-
parts.
Yeah, honestly, I think this is a fine 2-part podcast.
Yeah,
right now.
I think
might
we're
actually-
at fine
we might
length,
actually
to be
fit-
honest.
I'm genuinely, unless you want to do an ending, I think the show can end quite happily with, and that's all I have to say about that. Cut.
Yeah.
But no, in conclusion, actually, I think this is probably one of our more effective podcasts. I think there's a lot to be learned about the medium that you illustrate something in, and despite the Japanese nature of a lot of these games, obviously the sort of draw that we have to them, I think it is important to always consider your medium and the fact that interactivity doesn't necessarily equate to a better experience, and that just because you've got good pedigree doesn't mean that you are necessarily getting an automatically good series on your hands.
I would also like
Fuck
to
it,
say,
slap anime titties on, people will buy it.
Wah 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 wah.
I would also like to say
wah,
that,
wah, wah.
just remember, if you are someone who has only just gotten into anime and Japanese kind of
Get out! God,
media,
now, quickly! Run! Fucking run!
do remember that there is not just one style. Just because you are watching Sword Art Online and that sort of thing does not mean that is everything. There is
It just means you're wrong.
many more styles for you to have a look at. Yakuza, the Tales series, Persona, Kingdom Hearts have all shown today how different Japanese media can go just in video game form. Explore, have a look, see what works for you, and eventually one day even you will be able to find something that you can genuinely hold on to and really enjoy.
Unless you're Lewis.
Unless you're Lewis.
Unless you mean. Good night,
Stop.
everyone.
Get help.
Edge.
I was trying to really
And on that note, I'm
Alright.
gonna end it on
Wait, hang
stop,
hang
get
hang
help.
hang
Oh,
hang
hang on, yeah, that's a fair point.
Hang on. Before we end it, say goodnight, Joe.
That's what I was going to say. I'll say, Joe, you enjoyed your time.
Yep, I would very much do it again, just without the rest of you.
Say goodnight, Joe.
Say goodnight, Joe.
Good night, everybody.
I missed the opportunity!
God damn it!